All right, Amish. Yeah, a couple ways to look at this race as we come out of the Labor Day holiday nationally. This is the average of the major recent national polls, and you see Kamala Harris with a 3-point advantage over Donald Trump. A couple ways you could look at this. If you're a Democrat, you're obviously happy that Harris is ahead of Trump. You're also happy that this is an improvement from where the race was when Joe Biden was the Democratic candidate. He'd pretty much been trailing Donald Trump all year in the polls. So a reversal of that with Harris as the Democratic candidate. But if you're a Republican, you're not necessarily despairing when you look at these numbers. In fact, you could probably take some solace in them because Donald Trump is no stranger to being in this position on Labor Day. In fact, this position, being down 3, is better for him than it was the last 2 times he ran. In 2016, he was down on average by 5 points to Hillary Clinton at this point. And of course, he came back to win that election. And in 2020, he trailed Joe Biden by high single digits at this point. Trump didn't win in 2020, but of course, he made it very, very close in the Electoral College. And that's one of the keys here. A question for the fall and election night itself is, does Trump still have that advantage just because of the geographic distribution of his support in the Electoral College, where he could afford potentially to lose the popular vote by 2, 3, 4 points, something like that, and still potentially stitch together 270 electoral votes? So let's take a look at the road to 270. We're going to be using this one a lot between now and Election Day. 7 states in gray here. These are the core battleground states. 6 of them were blue states in 2020. They went for Joe Biden. 1 of them was a red state in 2020. That's North Carolina. That's the only state where Democrats in this battleground are playing offense. In the other states, the Democrats are trying to hold on to what they already carried in 2016. Now, in terms of the polling at the state level, it's all pretty close right now. Democrats, Kamala Harris, seem to be doing a tick better in the 3, let's call them Great Lakes states, in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Now, that's probably the most direct path for Harris if she's going to get to 270. Let's just play it out. If she were to hold those 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, there you go. You see it. She's at exactly 270 electoral votes. This would also require her, by the way, to hang on to that 1 congressional district around Omaha, Nebraska. They give out the electoral votes by district there. Biden had carried that in 2020. It's a district, very suburban. It's a lot of demographics that have been favoring Democrats. They would need to hold on to that, too. But that would be 270 electoral votes. Now, where it gets dicey for Harris is, while I say the polling's been a tick better for her in these states, and it was a tick better for Biden when he was the Democratic candidate, too. These are also states, Wisconsin especially, where we saw, in Michigan, too, where we saw some of the biggest polling misses in 2020 and even back in 2016. A lot of theories why, but these states are demographically similar in that they have large blue-collar white populations. And the question there is, are pollsters able to reach necessarily all of the sort of a representative sample of the Trump supporters from that demographic in those states? It's been an issue before. If it's an issue again, then it gets tricky for Harris, especially if she were to lose. Let's see this one here, Pennsylvania. If Harris were to lose Pennsylvania, that's the biggest of the swing states. It has 19 electoral votes. To compensate for losing Pennsylvania, even if she's getting Michigan, Wisconsin, she's going to have to win 2 of these states from the Sun Belt to get over the 19 that she loses by not having Pennsylvania. And if Trump gets Pennsylvania, his simplest path would just look like this. Hang on to North Carolina, which he already won, as we said, in 2020. It was close, but he won it in 20, and then go to Georgia. The margin in Georgia in 2020 was just about 12,000 votes, just under 12,000 votes. The polling for Trump, when you look at all of these different battleground states, it's tended to be the best for him or close to the best for him in Georgia. Extremely close, but if Trump were to do that, Pennsylvania, hold North Carolina, get Georgia, and there you see it. He'd be at exactly 270 electoral votes. So those are probably the most efficient paths for each candidate to get to 270. But you can see there's all sorts of other combinations that are possible. And the good news is we got more than 60 days to go through all those possibilities. So we are just getting started.
And thank you so much to Steve Kornacki for breaking all that down. Let's now bring in more of our NBC News colleagues. Marissa Parr is in Florida following the Harris campaign's reproductive freedom bus tour. Kelly Aldana has more on the Harris campaign strategy from the White House. And Garrett Hake is following the Trump campaign, and he's here with me on set. So thanks all of you for being here. So Marissa, I want to start with you. Florida is no longer a swing state when it comes to the presidential election. So why is the Harris campaign launching a bus tour in that state right now? And what have you heard from folks on the ground?
Hey, Amish. Well, I'll start by saying it may look like I'm standing outside of just a regular building, but this is where the event was earlier today. That giant bus that we've been seeing video of with reproductive freedom written in the largest of letters was parked right outside of this building earlier today. And it is already on its way to the next leg of the tour, which is in Jacksonville, Florida. So it is not coincidence that they chose Florida for the first two stops of this, specifically here in Palm Beach County. Amish, we're only 10 miles away from Mar-a-Lago. Of course, that is the former President Trump's home. And this was something that was mentioned several times, and there's a couple of reasons for that. But one of them being we have Amendment 4 on the ballot. You mentioned roughly a dozen states that either already have abortion rights on the ballot or are still considering that. And so we had a 15-week abortion ban that was overturned to the current 6-week abortion ban. But the Florida State Supreme Court simultaneously decided in May that Amendment 4 would be on the ballot. So what that means is if 60% of Florida voters decide to pass this, then abortion rights would be protected until, quote, viability, which is roughly 24 weeks here. So one of the reasons why they stressed coming to Florida for those first two stops is to really do a full court press on Amendment 4, which, of course, we know is a big part of the campaign here for 2024. But the other part here that I thought was interesting, when you look at the Harris-Walz campaign key battleground states, Florida's not among the 7 that they're really targeting here, but they still chose to be here partially to show that they are confident that Florida is still in play for Democrats. This is something that I asked Senator Amy Klobuchar about earlier today. I want to take you to a little bit about what we heard.
You see Democrats, Republicans, independents galvanized by this, just as they were in Kansas, in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in Alaska. It really brings people together across party lines. So this is really the great place to begin this bus tour. You have something like an amendment measure like this on the ballot, and that really turns people out to vote because they believe, this is my future, particularly women who think, I'm just not going to stand for this anymore.
And I will add this, Yamish. The Florida comms director for the Harris campaign tells me that Florida saw the, quote, largest surge of volunteers signing up after Harris became the nominee, announced that she was going to be throwing her hat in the ring for November. And so this was, I'm told, a big part of the reason why they chose Florida to kick off the campaign here, even though we have seen that Democratic erosion in previous election cycles, both presidential and midterm, Yamish.
Great. Well, that's, of course, great reporting, Marissa. Kelly, as we heard just now from Marissa, the campaign is clearly leaning into one of their strengths, with, of course, it's talking about abortion and reproductive freedom. How did yesterday's joint event in Pittsburgh play into the campaign's overall strategy when it comes to the economy?
Well, certainly focusing on labor and on working Americans. They want to really stress that they believe that Kamala Harris has a plan to lower costs, and she's talked about that through things about price gouging, which gets some pushback and reaction over where that really, how effective a policy that would be. But they want to emphasize that she is very aware that costs for Americans are among the top priorities, if not at the very top. So being with President Biden on the trail, which we saw in Pittsburgh and we'll see again in some key places, is one of the ways where they want to show that the vice president is able to focus on this issue and to try to connect. She talks about her own middle-class background, talks about the kinds of jobs that she has to relate. And so they recognize that speaking the language of families who worry about grocery bills, who worry about making their budgets stretch, that is a way to connect. And so she is going to try to focus on that wherever possible. Also, as Marissa was saying, just dealing with the issue of reproductive freedom as another core principle of her campaign. But the economy has long been a driving force for voters. Yamish?
And while you're talking about sort of the way that they're talking to people and trying to connect with voters, in both Pittsburgh and Detroit, we heard Vice President Harris call herself the, quote, underdog. It's a message that we've heard from the campaign overall. At the same time, the campaign is touting its advantages in momentum, in fundraising, in infrastructure. Why do they feel like that message of calling themselves the underdog is a winning message here?
Well, I think they want to keep the focus on activating those voters who believe that her candidacy either sparks something new with them, or issues like reproductive freedom or the economy, or the differences between the two campaigns, Trump and Harris, can get people out to vote. And they are concerned that in states where there will be a narrow margin, and they expect that in some key battleground states, those who stay home could be decisive. And so they want to portray as much as possible that even though they have strong showing, strong support, strong fundraising, that it will take grinding out the work week by week in the remaining 9 weeks to guarantee that they can do as much as possible to drive up their voters and to encourage those who have been less interested in the election, perhaps had been Trump voters at some point or Nikki Haley voters, to entice them to come on board for Harris and Walz. So underdog is something they believe puts her in a good position to try to connect to those voters who want to feel like they're being asked to participate. Yamiche?
Yeah, and Kelly, as you said, the remaining 9 weeks, my head almost spun because I thought, oh my gosh, it really is 9 weeks. But of course, in that 9 weeks, we're going to see the first debate between Trump and Harris. It will take place, as we said, a week from now. So there's been some back and forth on the rules of the debate. Where do things stand right now?
Well, as far as the debate, she is preparing, and the expectations are that the rules will be a lot like they were for the CNN debate June 27th, which presumed to be really pivotal in changing the dynamics of this race and effectively forcing President Biden to consider his own future. So that includes things like they can't sit, they can't have notes, expecting the microphones to be muted when the other person is not speaking. So you would not have the free-for-all that we've seen in past kinds of debates. And certainly for Kamala Harris, a different candidate than Joe Biden, she has been advocating publicly for wanting the microphones on the whole time in order to allow for those unpredictable moments. At this point, we don't have an indication that it will go her way on that, but meeting for the first time in person with Donald Trump will certainly be notable in and of itself.
It would certainly be notable. Thank you so much, Kelly O'Donnell from the White House. And Garrett, thanks for coming here on set with me. Of course, Labor Day is this time where you see oftentimes, campaigns ramp up. But Former President Trump, he's been off the campaign trail for the last couple of days. Is there a sense of urgency you're picking up there from your sources?
Not that I can tell. I mean, it's really striking. The pool's closed. The weather's getting a little bit crisp. You expect to be out on the trail, but we're not really seeing it from the Trump campaign. The sense I get is that they are basically treading water until this debate. I mean, I keep being told by Trump sources they're going to increase the pace. He's going to be out on the trail more. We're going to see a more aggressive campaign, but we haven't seen that from Trump. We didn't see J.D. Vance or Trump really at all this weekend, and we're not seeing it from surrogates. There's not been a functional equivalent of that bus tour that Marissa Parr was just talking about. It's possible that the campaign wants to try to use the debate as kind of a pivot point around which to regain focus. They have said for a long time they thought Kamala Harris would have a honeymoon in the media and in the polling, but I've seen vanishingly little attempt from them to stop it up until now.
Yeah, and as you bring up the debate, how is former President Trump sort of preparing? The sources have always said he's not really doing traditional debate prep. They've been saying that for years, but what are you picking up?
Look, there is no Donald Trump at the podium. There's nobody dressed as Kamala Harris sort of doing the traditional back and forth like we typically would see when we think about debate prep. What Donald Trump does do, and I've experienced this to a certain degree, he's always on the phone with people. He's always bouncing ideas off people. He's sort of like field testing attack lines with Mar-a-Lago members, with staff members, with Tulsi Gabbard, who his campaign has brought on, who famously got under Kamala Harris's skin a little bit when they were on the Democratic debate stage 4 years ago. Gabbard, I'm told by a source, has been particularly helpful with the former president in taking his instinct to attack and then figuring out how to pivot, how to go beyond that. Don't just hit her with the nickname, but use that and then talk about what your administration did. So they're trying to polish his skills, but I will say Trump, as we know, has a very high opinion of his own ability as a debater. And, some of it earned after he sort of survived and Joe Biden got knocked out of the race after their last debate. He's not particularly interested in advice. He's interested in how to do what he thinks he does well better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and Donald Trump having a particularly high opinion of himself is striking but not surprising in some ways. But I wonder, do you think that he still thinks he's winning this race, especially after President Biden has dropped out?
It's tough to say. He still says he's winning. I mean, it was on a podcast today that I was listening to in which he was asked about, what do you do if it's a close win or a close race and the results are contested? He said, it's not going to be close. We're going to win in a blowout. That's what he continues to say publicly. But his actions don't suggest that. He seems more unnerved on his social media. He seems a little bit more disorganized on the stump. And we're hearing a little bit more about some degree of friction within the campaign about the right courses to take. And we see him publicly kind of pushing back against his advisors, which is a thing that he doesn't do when he's winning. So that's a long way of saying, I think, the public perception, certainly what Donald Trump wants us all to believe, is that he's comfortably ahead. But signs are, and we know that he's an avid poll reader, poll consumer, that he's at least aware of the data pointing the other direction. Whether he believes it or not, I really couldn't say.
Well, I mean, this is the best window into Donald Trump's mind that we've gotten all day, so thank you so much, Garrett.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.